back to another video. Today I have a Doodle With Me video for you today. So the drawing I'm doing in this video, I have a printable linked down below. So pause this and go print that so you can doodle with me. So I have a few Q&A questions to answer today. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them, so put them down in the comments below so I can answer them next time. So the first question is, what inspired you to start drawing? So this is a good question. So I grew up drawing as a kid, you know, like most kids do, but what really got me starting to draw, like, seriously, meaning more often, and something I choose to do regularly, was the family I have, actually. So I come from a very creative family. I have musicians in my family, I have artists, photographers, writers, all sorts of creatives that come from my family. When I say family, I mean, yes, my immediate family, but also I have a lot of cousins and we are all super close, and all of the cousins are really creative also. And so we have our own little creative community, which I love to be a part of. I have a older cousin, my oldest cousin actually, is a really amazing artist. She, whenever I really started drawing, when I was around 12 years old, she was in her senior year of high school, and she was taking this art class, and she had this showcase, and I was just so inspired. She had this art journal with all of these pages that were filled with all these pieces of art, and I was just like, I want to do that. And I also have another cousin that's the same age as me, and she is an amazing artist. You should go check out her Instagram. It's really amazing. Her Instagram handle is ArtNaryJo, and she is an amazing artist, and I just love to collaborate with her and show my art and her show me her art. Her painting is actually on my wall back there. I don't know if you can see it. As soon as she finished painting that, I was like, can I buy it? She was like, sure. So I just love being a part of my creative community and just being able to be inspired by my cousins, and all of us are inspired by each other in our different forms of art because we have all different kinds of artists. And so I think what really inspired me to start drawing was because there was so many people around me being creative, and I just wanted to be a part of that, and I found something I really love to do. So the next question is, who are your favorite artists? Well, that's a big question, but maybe we'll say for classical artists, I really love Monet. I know a lot of people love Monet, but I really love the impressionist style he has. I think it's just really inspiring to me and really beautiful to look at. I especially love, the water lilies are really good. And I really like the one, I don't know what it's called, but it's a girl in a field in a dress with a umbrella thingy. It's really pretty. And also I think it's called sunrise or something, or sunset, but it's like boats on the water with like sunrise or sunset. Those are three of his that I really like. I also really like Current Chamberlain Paintings is one of the YouTubers I follow that I really love to watch his videos. They're so relaxing, and his paintings are beautiful. And then, probably see this one coming, my other favorite artists are all of my cousins. They are amazing artists. We have an amazing painter, a photographer, we have bakers, we have public speakers. I think that's a great art also. We have musicians, authors, amazing stuff, poetry writers, all of them. They are my favorite artists, and my family. I just love them. They are very inspirational to me. So my next question is, what do you listen to when you paint? That's a good question. So I like to listen to audiobooks. That's one thing I love to listen to while I'm painting. Sometimes I'll be listening to books for school. Like currently for school, I'm reading The Odyssey by Homer, which is pretty interesting. Kind of gory occasionally, but other than that, it's much better than the Iliad, which was way more gory. I wasn't a fan of that, but I'm listening to that. I listen to music, which I have a special playlist that I like to listen to. It's called my Bible reading playlist, and it has a bunch of artists that have like really relaxing and just like chill vibes of the music, and I really enjoy listening to that. And so that's what I listen to while I paint. I have that playlist, and I have one more playlist that I listen to if I want a more like upbeat mood. I have a playlist. I think I titled it Untitled. No, I didn't title it Untitled Playlist. I titled it, Playlist Untitled. So genius, right? So smart. Very creative. That's what I titled it. But it has more of my upbeat music that I like to listen to get into like a upbeat mood. Yeah. So that's what I listen to while I paint. So next question, what is a medium you haven't tried yet but would love to? That's a good question. I think, so I've used colored pencils before, but I haven't like created like a piece with them, and I've been seeing a lot of cool art on Instagram with people using colored pencils, like really hyper realistic drawings, or just like designs that they create like a scene with. And I think it's really pretty, and I think that would be really fun to try. And I haven't yet, so I think that would be really fun to try soon. So recently, I've been researching for a senior thesis that I'm writing for my homeschool group, which is Classical Conversations. So we get to pick whatever topic we want to, but we just have to, prove it. So what I've been researching specifically is on the effects that beholding beauty has on a person. So I really wanted to pick something that was connecting to my passion for creating and art. So it's been pretty interesting, the results that I've been finding. So I've been researching and reading a bunch of books and listening to a bunch of podcasts, and so I thought I'd share with you a few of my favorite findings. So Sally Lloyd Jones' podcast, the Jesus Storybook Bible podcast, what she does is she has guest speakers on every podcast show and has all of these artists come on and speak. And she has different kinds of creatives like actors and musicians and painters and things like that, and they all come and talk about how art specifically has changed their lives. And it's been really interesting, and I found a bunch of really good authors off of that, like a book called Beholding and Becoming by Ruth Cho Simons, and that's almost exactly what I want to talk about, which is beholding beauty and becoming something different. And what I've found is how looking at beauty and having beauty in your lives really is a very fundamental piece of what makes us human and how we interact and function well in our lives. And so I found that really, really interesting, and connecting that to my own interest and fascination, and I'm drawn to beautiful things and want to create beautiful things. I think it's so interesting to see the connections of how those actually are almost healthy for us to be looking at art. I actually had the opportunity to join a virtual conference, which is normally in person, but because of COVID it was virtual this year, but that made it possible for me to join because I live in Texas and the convention is in Tennessee. But what I got to join was this conference called Hutchmoot. And Hutchmoot is a conference that is for creative people, It's not necessarily only for creative people. I think everyone's creative, but there's so many creative people there, and like long-term professional creatives there also. And they'll have people that speak and share how creativity has impacted their lives and how they've made that work as creative people, and also done a bunch of collaborations together at the conference. So poets and musicians or writers and painters would get together and create something. And so it was so inspiring and so cool to see how those people interacted together. But a lot of the things that they talked about, these 50-year poets were sharing how poetry impacts like your soul, and I thought it was so fascinating to hear about and so impactful to hear about, because the way they were speaking about intentionality in what you create is impactful to the viewer, the person who's looking at your art, or even yourself, how it impacts you whenever you're intentionally creating something, which is so special to be able to think that what we're doing as creative people matters and can be making an impact in a way that you may not think it could. Another favorite of mine is Andrew Peterson, and he's written a book called Adorning the Dark, and basically it's talking about adorning, making beautiful the dark places that we see in the world. Not necessarily specific locations, but general feelings or hard things or bad things, and how beauty can restore those things back to a good place. And so I think that is a really impactful concept of how art can really make an impact towards the dark places of the world, and that's one of my goals. I love to use my art to bring happiness and restoration to things and impact people in a way that they feel changed after they have interacted with my art. And I'm sure most creatives feel the same, that they would love to make an impact on the world. And in his book, he talks a lot about like what that looks like and how it's impacted him. And finally, the last person I really love to learn from, he is a world-renowned artist. His name is Makoto Fujimura, and he's had showings around the world, New York. Incredible. He's a abstract modern artist, and he uses like ancient techniques to create his art with like pigments he makes himself, and it's really long process to make his art, and it's so beautiful. And his theories and methods about art is that what you think about and the feelings you put out there as you create the art almost create like a snapshot of everything you were thinking and feeling of in the piece you create. And so he talks a lot about intentionality whenever you're creating things. Like, say you're painting a lily, you think about lilies, you process things that you remember about lilies, you think about what the lily makes you feel, how you perceive the lily, all those things, and that makes your painting have so much more depth. And I just love his thoughts about creativity and art and how it can restore your soul and what place you are in. And so it's almost like bringing that light of creativity and beauty and how that impacts you into your own dark places. And I think that's really cool to be able to take your passion for creating and how you're drawn to it, and use that to help heal yourself and work through those things. And so you should definitely read his book. I love Culture Care, that book, and also he has another book which I'm about to read, and it's called Art and Faith. And so all these books and podcasts I've mentioned, I will have them linked in the description below. I would love if you went and checked them out, and if you do read them, I would love to hear about it and what you think. One thing I think that's helpful when you are working on a doodle spread is to have symmetry and patterns. So they don't necessarily have to have this, but I think it's really fun whenever you see a pattern of flowers. So for instance, if you have a certain type of flower you designed, it has small little petals and polka dots on it. You put that flower down here, and instead of creating so many more flowers, you put that same flower up here. on the top of your page. And I think that adds a lot of cohesiveness to your doodles. So if you're having trouble thinking of new things to do, don't be afraid to repeat something, because it looks good. One thing personally I like to add to my flowers are little texture lines to make it look like it's, has little veins in the petals or something, just a little bit of interest. So I just add like 2 lines or 3 little lines on the petals just to add a little bit of texture and interest to the flower, and I think it adds a lot. I don't necessarily do it for tiny petals, but really big petals, I like to add a little bit to the empty space. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and doodling with me. If you have doodled with me, I would love to see your drawing, so you can send that to me on Instagram or tag me on that on Instagram, because I would love to see what you guys do. If you have any questions for me for future Q&As, leave them down below in the comments, because I would love to hear and read your questions and answer them. So I'll see you guys next time.